there were no red flags for me to sit there and think like, oh, this is the criminal or this is some fugitive that's on the run, or stuff like that. This guy just looked like a dude in a BDU uniform or battle dress uniform like I had. So anyway, but now I'm looking at him straight on. I'm like, holy crap, this dude does not look human.
You go, where were we? You go up, and now, is this where you actually have the...
Yeah, and it's on the way to Quartz Mountain that I have the encounter.
And what happened?
Well,
Play-by-play.
I am sitting there in the vehicle. I've got the driver. He's the ranking individual. We're in the lead vehicle. And I'm sitting right behind the driver. And then there's another...
You're in the back seat.
I'm in the back seat.
Okay. Is it a four-door truck?
It's a four-door truck. So
okay.
They didn't give you a shotgun? Come on.
No, they didn't give me a shotgun. I did not. I didn't yell it soon enough. The other guy got it.
Yeah.
He got shotgun.
Nose goes.
Yes. So I sucked that day. So, yeah. And then the guy in the front right in the passenger side, and then there's another person to my right, a young lady to my right. So anyway, we're just traveling as we normally do.
With at least two cars behind you.
With at least two other cars behind us in the convoy. Okay. And we always convoy just in case somebody does break an axle or whatever, and we can pick them up. Anyway, so there's this guy in a uniform. Looks like he's coming down the left-hand shoulder of the road.
How far away?
We noticed him when he was about a football field away.
Okay.
And he's kind of like standing there, and then he saw us, and he started like running towards us. And he had this funny look to his running. It was like he was falling forward all the time, or like he was running against a really strong wind.
Is he from far away though? As you're first seeing him, is he running in a way that would suggest, oh, this seems like a human?
Yes, somewhat. Yeah, he looked about human size and everything else. Yeah, everything. He just looked like he had a uniform on like mine, and he was just running towards us. And as we approach. That's when I noticed his skin had this blue tint to it, like he was hypothermic. That's what I thought. My immediate thought was that he was hypothermic, and he needed help.
So it's like it's white skin, but it's turned like almost the blood's rushing. It's not like a dark ocean blue or something.
Oh no,
like that.
It's definitely not like dark navy blue or anything.
Right.
No, this is just like you or I. We're cold as all get out, and we're starting to freeze. That's what it looked like to me. That level of blue was like, holy crap, that was the level of blue. It wasn't because he was like dark blue or anything. It was just this undertone of blue. So anyway, we get closer and closer, and he's only a few feet away from the car, and we're slowing down. And the guy in the front seat, that's where I mentioned in the film with you that's when he screams out that he's got no ears. The guy in the front seat. And I'm like...
the guy in the front seat that's sitting next to the driver?
Yeah, the passenger side guy in the front seat says he's got no ears. And I'm thinking, how rude. This guy's probably fighting for his life here, hypothermic, and you're talking about his ears, So I'm popping open the door. I'm trying to take my jacket off at the same time because I'm thinking I got to wrap him in something because he's hypothermic. And that's when I step out onto the roadway, and I'm shutting the door, and that's when I look up at him, and I'm realizing he has no ears, and his eyes are twice as big than normal, and he does indeed have this blue tint, and that's when I felt like really scared because I was like, oh crap, what did I walk into here?
How close is he to you now?
He's only like 3 feet. He's
right in front of you.
It's like, me and James apart.
Is he looking you in the eyes?
Not immediately. He kind of, as I'm shutting the door and he realizes that I'm about ready to engage with him, he was like looking at the driver. I don't know what he was thinking about doing, but maybe he was going to hail him or knock on the window. I don't know.
Are you looking to see if he's armed?
No.
No.
I'm just more concerned for his health.
Okay.
At that point, because if he's on the range, I'm thinking he's in a uniform. There were no red flags for me to sit there and think like, oh, this is the criminal or this is some fugitive that's on the run, or stuff like that. This guy just looked like a dude in a BDU uniform or battle dress uniform like I had. So anyway, but now I'm looking at him straight on. And I'm like, holy crap, this dude does not look human. And I'm starting to get really scared. But then he talks to me, and that calms me down because I had to respond. And he's wanting to fix and repair his craft, and he's asking for that material, the tantalum.
What did his voice sound like?
It was not English at all. He did have an auditory, he spoke, but it sounded more like Norwegian or something like that.
So you couldn't understand what he spoke, but you could understand what he was saying because there was something telepathic going on.
Right. I could understand what he was saying, regardless of what he was actually saying.
What was he saying?
He was saying, my craft is damaged. I need some material to repair it. Do you have any tantalum? And I was like, is that titanium? He's like, no. And so I was like, well, pointed over to the Dreamland, Groom Lake. And I said, those people might have some high-tech metals and things like that. And this wave of emotion hits me like disgust. Like I'm not asking people like, barbarians for that.
From him, he's saying
Yeah,
that.
he's saying this, and I'm getting that telepathic emotion of his being disgusted about it, me even mentioning it.
Are you at all looking at the guys at any point here who are with you?
Yeah, I tended to look over a couple of times,
And what are they doing?
they looked like they were just zonked like zombies. Like I almost laughed. Really, they looked comical, like just totally.
Literally like the Men in Black movie where people are stunned.
Yeah, and they're just
Yeah.
they're just kind of like they're just zoned out.
Yep.
That's what they look like. So anyway, I look at them a couple of times, and he keeps talking to me.
Did the driver have the window down or the window up? Sorry, does the driver...
I think at one point he did start rolling his window down, but when he saw my door was opening up, I think he rolled it back up because it was freaking cold. And he probably wanted to, stop the cold air from coming in. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe the window was down partially, maybe.
Yeah.
He could have, but I don't really remember, to tell you the truth.
You're reacting to what's happening right here, and you're having this communication, so there's like a lot of senses going on here.
Right.
But first of all, how long is this full encounter with him? We're going to get to
Not
how it
very
ended.
long.
But,
It couldn't have been more than 5 minutes.
okay. Is there a point in there where you are like, holy shit, I'm talking to a fucking alien?
Well, yeah, after I realized this guy's talking another language, I'm being preoccupied by his constant talking to me. And, I got the distinct impression that I was like in a holy crap situation. So, yeah, I felt definitely that there was definitely that this person was not human. I've never been talked to by James or you telepathically like that. And if you have another language as your first language and still understanding you, I've never had that happen before or since.
So how does it end? You talk for 5 minutes. What happens?
He ends up going back to his craft. He gets into it, and as he's traveling above the roadway and travels off in the south to southeast range or of the range, and it's kind of towards Vegas, actually. And he just takes off, and then everybody in the car finally is coming to, and they don't have that zonked out look anymore.
What does the craft look like, by the way? You did share it in the program documentary, link in
Yes.
description below. Go check it out. Great documentary, James. But what does it look like?
It's kind of got a bulbous cockpit, and it's got like a little pad or footprint thing that comes off of it. Mm-hmm.
How big?
It can hold like two people, like a cockpit of a fighter jet.
Had you ever seen anything like it before?
Never. You're talking to a guy along with the other people in the convoys that were there the week before. You literally, when you do the red flag exercises, you see all these craft, not just your own in our inventory, in the American inventory, but we are actually helping our allies to train also with us. So we literally knew what the bombers, the fighters, every type of aircraft, we already knew what they looked like. And this fit none of it. Mm. And that's exactly the feeling I had, because it had a bulb, like an egg-shaped cockpit that was about the same size as a normal fighter jet cockpit would look like. It has this black pancake egg that's flat. It's about a foot or foot and a half wide, sticking out the back where like if it was a helicopter, it would have been the tail of the helicopter. Mm. And then, you see those helicopters that have like a big rounded canopy or whatever where the pilots sit.
Yes.
That's kind of what it looked like, but it was all white except for this black pancake.
How far? I think you just said this. I might have missed this. How far away was the craft from where you guys were first talking with him?
About
again?
50 yards.
50 yards.
Yeah.
So when you're talking with him, did you notice the craft in the background? Like, were you looking at that at all?
Yeah, because when I was getting out of the car, I definitely looked to my left as well. And that's when I saw it full on.
Was the craft parked on the road or in the desert?
It was in the desert. It was off the road because as we were traveling, this is the road towards Quartz Mountain.
Yeah.
The craft was off to the side of the road, off the shoulder of the road in the desert.
Do you think you'd be able to take us back to that exact
I
location?
could point exactly where it was. I could get you probably within about 10 feet.
Okay. So he goes back. How did the conversation end, by the way? Like, what was the last thing
He just,
said?
well, when I mentioned talking to those people and he got disgusted, it ended pretty quick after that. But I
He's
just
like,
said,
I'm getting the fuck out of here.
yeah, well, he just said, no, that's not going to work. And I said, well, the only other people I could think of is I go to college downtown Vegas because I was going to the community college. And I was like, I knew a geophysical professor, and I'm like, maybe he's got a metallurgist specialist friend of his. And I was like, maybe they have a professor down there. And he's like, okay.
And were you speaking English to him?
Yeah, I had to speak English.
So you weren't thinking things; you were speaking.
I was speaking, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But he understood.
He understood.
But he's speaking back to you telepathically.
Yes.
Well, but was his mouth moving like gibberish coming out of his mouth?
Because he's speaking like Norwegian.
Yeah. It's kind of like if I could talk to you and I could say something like in Spanish, like, "No puedo caminar más."
But a Duolingo in my head is giving me English.
Yeah, but at the same time I'm saying it in Spanish, yeah, you're understanding everything I said.
I got you. Okay. So he goes back to the craft. Now, the craft had a problem with it. He said he needed some shit, but he takes off in it.
Yeah.
When it takes off, does it make any noise?
Yeah, kind of like a strange sort of I don't know how to put it. What could I equate it to? It's kind of like, you ever hear your fan belt squeaking in your car?
Yes.
Like, it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay. So
any wings, any propeller blades?
Zero.
So it just moves
Zero.
up straight?
Yeah, it kind of takes off like this, and then as he starts traveling horizontally, he's going up in like stair steps.
Because he had an issue with the craft.
Right, and I think it was just when he was doing vertical, gaining altitude or losing altitude, that's the part that was broken.
And then at some point he disappears from view.
Right. Yeah, he just takes off and goes out of view.
All right. Now you're no longer zonked guys are standing there, right?
Well, they're all in the car. Nobody else got out of their cars.
But they were you were saying when they had the zonk look, they're in the car.
They're in the car, and and as the guy is traveling back and I'm getting back in the car, they all come to, and then everybody seems to be normal. And
does anyone say, what the fuck was that?
No, I was just about to ask that question.
no, nobody is talking about it. And I'm like, did you guys see that? And they're like, no. Yeah, and they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, well, let's just get to work.
All right, wait a second. Was it a no, because whatever the fuck we just saw, we can never talk about because that shit's crazy? Or was it a no, like...
The ranking guy, I think he saw it. I know he saw some of it because he was the only one that flat out said no and don't talk about it.
So you think that maybe I'm putting words in your mouth right here. You think that at least some of them may have had some lost time on this?
Yes.
And for people out there, can you explain what lost time is?
That's just a portion of time where you're either physically hit in the head and you can't remember, or some other means like you've hear from abduction scenarios from other people where somehow these creatures are able to, turn you off for that amount of time. And then I've heard from other people that there's actually maybe even a time-space kind of a phenomenon that's encountered with other craft where their radios turn off and all the electrics in their car turn off, and then they get, they have missing time, but at the same time they feel like nothing happened.
You said something really interesting in the program, which I loved. I mean, it really resonated with me that when you made eye contact with this thing, this being, critter, person, whatever, that you almost had this snake bite. Like, what was that? Where did that?
That was the very first part of the conversation because that was when I shut the door and I looked up. It's like,
and you got eyes with him,
right? And I locked eyes, and it was the strangest freaking set of eyes I'd ever seen. It was like a crocodile was freaking looking at me, and my fear instinct just went spiked. I was like, "Holy crap!"
Like a bolt of adrenaline going through you.
Oh shit! Yeah, I was
fear. Were you scared?
it was definite fear. I was like, holy crap, this guy's not, he's an alien. I was like, you know.
So you look like you were looking into a crocodile's eyes.
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing you get if you stumble onto a rattlesnake. That's what it felt like. I mean, you just scared to death. You're like, oh crap, you know. That's what I felt.
But you didn't feel threatened in the sense that
Not threatened.
that your well-being was at stake.
Here was a sentient being that I couldn't explain. If you could imagine that kind of a scenario, just like, you know, the first time you're scuba diving and you meet a whale for the first time, you're like, yeah, you know, that kind of feeling.
But you know what a whale is.
Yeah, and eventually you calm down and you realize that
It's a whale.
it's a whale and it's gentle and it doesn't bother you.
But you never figured out what this thing was.
No, I did not.
What happened? So you get in the car, they kind of come to. You're like, did you just see that? Some guys are like, no. What happens next? You guys just drive back to wherever you're going?
Well, we had to be at Black Mountain by a certain time to start our equipment up and everything else. So that was the foremost in our mind, or everybody else's mind. I was still reeling from the whole thing that I just experienced.
You driving in silence?
I'm just like, holy crap, what just happened? You know, kind of in shock, complete shock. And then we get to Black Mountain, we crank up our gear, start working our job, and we finish out the day and we go back to the hotel. And only the ranking guy was the one that I know remembers some of it, at least, because I talked to him later on.
Where? Like, how did that
At
come?
lunchtime. I had a very strange compunction. I don't know what the hell. It was cold as heck out there, but I wanted to go eat my lunch outside. There was like a compelling something that told me, go.
When you got to the place?
Yeah, when we got to Black Mountain. Yeah. So I ate lunch and I walked down, and this is where my missing time comes in. I walked down about 100, 150 feet down the road from the top of Black Mountain, and I don't remember anything.
Watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.